Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. And today, we are continuing our series about virtual summits and specifically about structuring your event programming. And the first thing you need to figure out is, do you want to do the summit for 5 days or do you want to do it for 7? I'm going to go through our Get Published Summit because what we did was we structured it for 5 days, Monday through Friday. And what we did was we had 5 speakers on our first day. We had 4 speakers that we recruited, and then as the host, I also did an opening session. On Tuesday, we did 3 sessions. On Wednesday, we did 4. On Thursday, we did 4, and then we closed out Friday by doing 3 sessions. So we did a total of 19 sessions for our summit. And one thing I do want to be crystal clear about is I do highly recommend that as the summit host, you at minimum do a closing session, but what I recommend is that you do an opening session and a closing session, and I'll explain why. Doing an opening session helps lay down the foundation for the summit ahead. It positions you as the expert, as the host, welcoming your attendees to what they're going to witness over the next several days in regards to the speakers, to the talks, and what to expect. It also gives you an opportunity to explain to them that if you do have a regular admission, a free admission, then you will have 24 hours to access those events. And then after that, they will not be able to access it unless they have the premium pass. And the nice thing is, you can also talk about yourself, what you do, how you help people. So you already begin to plant the seeds in regards to having them potentially work with you. Now, in regards to a closing session, that is another thing that I highly recommend, is having that closing session on the Friday or whatever the last day of your event is going to be. Now, with our closing session, we talked about basically a summary of the different speakers, the events. What we also talked about was the events that received the highest feedback. So in ours, Jonathan Green's session received the highest feedback. My opening session had the second highest, and then our third highest was with Matt Stone, because he was talking specifically about book covers. Jonathan was talking about multiplying your author income. They were all awesome events, and those were the 3 that received the highest feedback. The nice thing with Hay Summit is that attendees get the opportunity to comment on your various events. In addition to that, they can also upvote the event. So it's a great way to track which events were doing the best. Another thing about closing session is you can also tie an offer into it. What we did was 2 offers. The first thing is we emphasized the premium pass. We reminded our attendees that they would receive the transcripts. They would also receive the MP3 audio files. We also mentioned that it was a limited time offer, because what happened was after Saturday, the price did go up from $97 to a regular price of $197. And you can structure that however you want. But if you are looking to get multiple sales, you want to have a sale price with that, and also to create scarcity and a sense of urgency. And the best way to do that is to have a closing session that can reinforce your email sequence as well. So I am a huge fan of having opening sessions and closing sessions. And what we did was we actually pre-recorded the events. In addition to that, I basically used slides. I didn't even use video. I used screen share, recorded a session, uploaded it to Vimeo. Same process with the transcripts and with extracting the MP3 audio. And then we put it out there. Now, one thing I did a little bit differently with closing session was the time that it went live. In regards to the 5 days of sessions, we had each session go live at 8 o'clock a.m. except for one. and that was opening session. I automatically put that session live at 7:52 a.m. And you're probably wondering, well, why did you choose such a unique time? The answer is because I wanted my opening session to be the first one that people would see, because I knew that first day we were going to be driving a ton of traffic to the summit, and that's the first thing I wanted our attendees to see. All the other sessions started at 8 a.m. on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, except for one, and that was closing session. What we decided to do was to have the closing session broadcast at, I believe it was 2 o'clock that afternoon, because we found 2 o'clock would be a good time to do it. So what we did was we actually were able to go into a summit because they have email responder systems already in place. And what happened was I made a couple of those options live where they would receive reminders going, hey, we're going to start closing session in an hour. And then another one saying we're going to start in a few minutes. I wasn't using that one before because we didn't want to send too many emails out. Our goal was to send out roughly 2 to 3 emails a day, and we did not want to inundate our attendees with it, because obviously if you get too many emails, that's going to annoy you, because no one likes a ton of emails from the same person. So we wanted to be very careful of that. However, we wanted to emphasize our closing session, and we were able to drive a lot of traffic to attend it, and that was a great strategy. So if you're utilizing a summit or another option, you definitely want to consider structuring those times to be a little bit different with your opening session and also with your closing session. Now, one of the other questions I get is, should I do 5 days or 7 days? This is what I would do differently. For our next Get Published virtual summit, for our next Get Published summit, what we're going to do is structure it out to 7 days. And it's twofold. We had 18 speakers at this first one. As I mentioned previously in our episodes, you want to make it through the first one. Get great speakers and build a foundation for future businesses, for future business opportunities, but most importantly, for future summits. And the main way that you do that is by setting a foundation. As I've mentioned many times, no one's going to make a huge fortune off of their first summit. Very difficult to do. You have to have a long-term vision and run it as lean as possible so you can still make a profit on the front end of things. So what I would do differently is have this next one over 7 days and also have 30 speakers. Now, I know that's very ambitious for someone that's doing a first summit. So what I would recommend ideally would be to have 20 to 25 speakers for your first summit, but I would stretch it over 7 days. I would still start the summit on Monday, but I would run it until Sunday. And the reason why is when you're doing a 5-day summit, you're wrapping up on a Friday. What are most people thinking of? They're thinking of the weekend. And when you are structuring it that way, when you are doing limited time offers and that they expire at midnight or the next day, then you might not be capitalizing on enough of those people, and more importantly, their schedules. So the one thing that I will be doing differently for our next summit is doing it for 7 days. I truly feel that is the sweet spot, Monday through Sunday, because then you can have that point of emphasis for Sunday and for Sunday night, which is where I feel more people are going to be paying attention versus a Friday night. So in regards to the structure, that's how we did it. We had 5 speakers, 4 sessions plus opening session on the first day. The second day we had 3 sessions. The third day we had 4. The fourth day we had 4. And then on Friday we had 3 sessions, 2 of our speakers, and then we had closing session. And we did closing session. We had that broadcast later in the day to bring as many people as possible to be able to have the opportunity to watch that broadcast in mid-afternoon on the Friday. But if I was to do it differently, I would go with 7 days, because I do feel that you will improve your conversion rate and also have the opportunity for additional sales with that rate, because I think a lot of people are going to be paying attention more on the weekend where they may necessarily have a little bit more time, so they can actually go and watch some of these sessions that they missed and then have those opportunities to connect with you on the closing session. Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.